I love shade. Yeah, I think shade is underrated. And if I can't make an image sing in terms of other facets within the composition, I would make sure I've got some lighting that can provide a dramatic resonance to whatever I'm trying to show. It's not just about the beam of light or positive exposure. It's also about the negative exposure and how you play that light with the shadow, right? It's very powerful in terms of how you want to tell that story and that image.
Welcome back to the Photo Country podcast, where we explore the world behind the lens with the visionaries shaping the way we see our world. I'm your host Rajiv, and today I'm thrilled to welcome a guest whose work needs no introduction, Matt Jacob. Matt is not only a renowned photographer celebrated for his evocative portraits and vibrant storytelling, but he is also the engaging host of the Mood podcast, where he brings together artists and creators to dive deep into the heart of creativity and culture. In this episode, we'll chat about Matt's journey capturing the diverse tapestries of cultures around the globe, his philosophy on art's power to connect us, and why he believes every photograph is a metaphor waiting to be unraveled. Whether you're a budding photographer, a seasoned pro, or just someone who loves a good story, you are in for an inspiring ride. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's get into the mood with Matt Jacob. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And it was a pleasant surprise to get the email about you and so fascinating profile that you have. So talk me through it. So where did you get your passion for photography?
It was really through travel. As a pilot, I would fly. So yeah, I'm a bit of history. My first passion and career and dream as a young boy was to be a pilot. So I kind of took that route through my 20s, early 30s. And as I traveled, I became educated and I really just found a passion and love for other ways of life and curiosity more than anything. So I was very intrigued about how I could record that or, later on, more importantly, tell the story of other people just for myself more than anything else. Then that became a bit of self-expression. And yeah, the passion grew as I picked up a camera, as I learned to really master or try and master the technical skills. And after that, I realized that photography is so much more than just a camera with buttons and ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. So, really, really exploring that avenue these days and how to tell stories, how to represent people in the way that they want to be represented, but also in an aesthetic, in a beautifully aesthetic way. So, yeah, there's a very long story short, but really it was travel. To answer your question, really, travel was really the catalyst that kind of sparked my curiosity in other ways of life. But it was the camera that I felt was, I don't know, not the necessarily the easiest, but the most, I don't know, most fun way and most convenient way of me documenting and trying to experiment with recording these places that I was visiting, these people that I was visiting around the world.
Yeah. And what kind of planes did you fly?
It was private jets. So I started in cargo and worked in cargo airlines for the first 10 years of my career, and then went into private jets flying rich people around the world. So that was really where the travel expanded because I'd get to go to so many incredible destinations and be paid for it. So it was free travel, which is always the dream and still is. So yeah, rather than sitting by a pool in my days off on these trips, I would think to myself, hang on a minute, let's just try and use a camera and see what I can document.
So it's interesting how different stories that people have to arrive at this point in life, right? With the camera in hand. So it's really fascinating. But what brought you to Bali?
Bali was always on my mind. So as I traveled, one of the places that really sparked my interest was Indonesia. And I'm a big scuba diver, so I'd do some scuba diving trips and at the same time would see kind of the local life. And so then I'll do some overland trips and just explore without a camera, just me and my wife and go on holiday. Essentially, the old boss I used to work for, she used to do a lot of scuba diving. So we would come to Indonesia, and there was something about all of these places in Indonesia that really, I don't know. I just enjoyed. I enjoyed the subtropical part of it. I enjoyed the real diversity of culture, diversity of landscapes, and the people. People I found some of the most friendly people in the world. So we were living in Hong Kong at the time with my job as a pilot, and then COVID hit, and Hong Kong became a pretty untenable place to live if you'd want to travel. Because although internally in Hong Kong it was quite safe, there was most things were open. We didn't have any lockdowns. Small city, so they kept it very small, kept it very tight. But inside the city, you can pretty much do anything you want within a few kind of legalized restrictions. But getting in and out of the country, in and out of Hong Kong was very difficult. You'd have to quarantine for 3 weeks in a hotel room if you want to come back in, and multiple testing. Then you'd have to do some quarantine at home as well. It's just, they made it very difficult for people. That was the intention. They didn't want people coming in. So it got to a point where myself and my wife were like, how long is this going to last for? And still flying at the time. So I was going on work trips and having to come back and do loads of quarantine, et cetera, et cetera. So I was exhausted. I was very frustrated. I was borderline depressed. And it was just, I don't know. At the time, we didn't know how long COVID was going to go on for. We didn't know how long China were going to basically impart their authoritative restrictions in the area for. It could have been years as far as we knew. It was a couple of years in the end. So we take the decision to move out of Hong Kong, and the first thing that came to mind was photography, really. Where can I do photography in my spare time and make it more of a full-time vocation? And Indonesia was somewhere I thought I could really tell a story here. I can, over the next decade, if it works out, I can integrate myself as much as I can as a Westerner and really get to know the country a lot better. And Bali was the easiest place for us to go as an expat. It was good connections to Hong Kong, so I still have to go to Hong Kong sometimes. I still fly in my spare time. So there was just an easy transition. And we got married in Bali. We'd been there before. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer, really. And for an expat to come to Bali, it can be both difficult and easy. If you really want to integrate and invest and kind of build a life for yourself here, it's very straightforward. But if you just kind of visit and kind of want to do a little bit of work or a little bit of visit, it becomes a little bit difficult. So we jumped all in, and that was 2.5 years ago now. So yeah, couldn't be happier.
Awesome. So your entire photography operation is out of Bali right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I don't do any commercial work here because I'm not allowed to, but I do a lot of personal work here. We have the podcast here in the studio. We have a cafe downstairs. So we have our own business here. But in terms of photography jobs, if there's any paid jobs, I do them all over the world, really.
And how did you get into the cultural portrait photography space? Because I can see that your photographs goes with your theme of being moody. How did you arrive at that space?
Yeah, moody came about when I first started taking environmental portraits. So I call it cultural portraiture, basically photos of indigenous populations most of the time. I still enjoy doing some landscape stuff, but even there, the locations are in weird and wonderful places. So yeah, it's really environmental that I love. That's my go-to. So when I started doing that, and it took me years to really find what I like. When I started doing that, I noticed and people noticed that certainly my lighting and the expressions and just the general mood of the photos was quite moody. It was, quite high contrast images, not really candid moments. It's kind of a 50% setup, 50% natural, real. So all of my photos are real people in their real homes or locations or places, but there's an element of direction. So that adds to kind of a bit of a moody feel, I guess, what I was drawn to. And yeah, I think that's the only way I can describe it. I don't really use that term anymore. I think some of my
Okay.
images are less moody, but most of my images are quite dramatic, probably a better word.
Yeah, very contrasting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dark and light play between those shades.
I love shade. Yeah, I think shade is underrated. And if I can't make an image sing in terms of other facets within the composition, I would make sure I've got some lighting that can provide a dramatic resonance to whatever I'm trying to show. So when I talk about lighting and talk about this with some of my students, it's not just about the beam of light or positive exposure. It's also about the negative exposure and how you play that light with the shadow, right? So we talk about lighting. I was talking about contrast being super important. It's very powerful in terms of how you want to how you want to tell that story in that image.
So, just looking at some of the images from your portfolio, there's one image where the subject's face is half lit and she's wearing a thick woolen scarf. I really love the way the image is rendered. So, talk to me about this image and how you got this.
Oh, yeah, okay. That was one of my very early photographs in Mongolia. She was the youngest eagle huntress in the area at the time. So she'd been groomed to take over the family eagle hunting practice, right? Which is a kind of dying practice in Mongolia as they westernize and modernize. This was just using window light. She's quite an emotional young girl, not confused, but she's a teenager. So she's still figuring out, who she is in life and what the family want of her. And so I felt like this drama within her that she was growing into something that she wanted to do, but maybe she didn't want to do. There was talk of her actually wanting to go to school and not carry on the family tradition. So there was this contrast between her state of mind that I just felt like a strong, but I felt that kind of lighting of her in that window was representative of who she was at the time. This was 6 or 7 years ago now, so I'd love to know what she's doing at this moment in time.
There's a couple of other photographs that I want to point out. One is a symmetrical photograph of a lady, walking into the horizon. The background was completely white, and then there's a reflection. That was great, like how you got the symmetry of the composition right. And the other one is diagonally below that photograph. It's completely dark, and it's very similar to the Mongolian eagle hunter photograph, but this is sort of, it has a red and white on the costume, which really pops against the dark background, and the way it's half lit. It's fantastic. Really nice composition. I love it.
The black backgrounds can really, certainly in portraits, they can really focus the viewer's attention on where to focus, right? So the other thing that's important, I think is important, I'm really trying to
Right.
work hard at, which is difficult when you're traveling to different locations, but if you're going to take portraits, to try and make them as cohesive as possible. And one way to do that is to have the same background, right? So obviously you don't want to just be a photographer that takes black background photo. Or, I mean, maybe you do, but I'd like to think that you kind of expand that photographic vocabulary over time. But they're great to have as a common thread throughout your body of work. If you're taking with the same camera, same lens, and if
Right.
you, all I do is I take a black backdrop cloth with me everywhere I go, so that if there's a chance of doing some portrait work, either just ad hoc or if it's part of a project, then I'll have a day of doing portraits with a black background so I can really capture the people's face. So it's less of an environmental portrait, but it's still a cohesive style that hopefully I can keep to. So yeah, those black backgrounds really work to really enhance some interesting features of a person or a culture.
Do you use artificial light as well?
It depends on the situation. A couple of those ones you just pointed out are artificial, and then some of those ones that I'm looking at now, like the ones with the green backgrounds, then they're natural light. So it depends, just depends on what I have at the time. Most of the projects I do, I'll take a light with me in a softbox so that I can shoot maybe in the middle of the day and still have a controlled environment, controlled background. But I'd say 80% of the time I'm using natural light. And then 20% of the time I'm either bouncing light or using artificial. Yeah.
The style that you have. Did you try a lot of things and then you arrived at it, or was there some kind of inspiration?
Yeah, good question. I think it changes all the time, but I'm always very excited to find new photographers. If I find a new photographer that I think is amazing, I get both excited and a little bit, oh Jesus, I need to do better. This guy is way above me, so it's like great inspiration, but it reminds me of how much further I need to go. So that's yeah, it's kind of frustrating sometimes. But initially, I was very drawn to Joey Lawrence, who's an environmental portrait photographer. He's Canadian, but he lives in New York. I'd like to call him a friend now. I guess he's more an acquaintance. I've had him on my podcast and talked to him quite a little bit, and he still is a big hero of mine in the space. I think he is the best portrait artist in the world. His lighting skills are second to none, and the way he's able to relate to the people that he photographs is that only comes with mastering your craft. It only comes with time. It only comes with doing it day out. Plus, add talent into that, of course. So he was one of my first biggest in photography back maybe 10 years ago now. And to this day, I think his work gets better and better all the time.
You mentioned that most of your photographs are of indigenous population, but how do you navigate those cultural sensitivities so that you show them respectfully and their culture through your photographs?
Really good question. And it's very, very difficult. That's the biggest challenge that I have with my photography. It is a challenge. I love it because it involves educating yourself and it involves doing a lot of research. Let's say you choose a place, you find a place or a type of subculture or cohort of people that you want to explore. Then it's just about research and trying to educate yourself as much as possible on those people or on that location. But once you're there and you have something set up, I think the people on the ground are very important. So that your guides or your fixers and people who can help you translate or basically guide you in these. I think spending time with these people is the most important thing before you even pick up a camera. So if you go to a place, factor in that time. I always factor in at least 3 or 4 days, preferably a week of just not necessarily living with them, but being in their environment, being in the same place, seeing them every day, getting them used to you, you getting used to them. And more importantly, to answer your question, learning about their way of life, because you can only really learn by seeing, doing, and watching, right? So there's only so much Googling and Instagramming and chat GPTing about these people. Really, you have to go there and experience. And so giving them the time to tell you and talk to you and get to know you and feel that connection. That for me has proven to be the best way to A, show respect, B, engage with that is paramount to getting good photos, but also paramount to doing them the service that they deserve. And then hopefully you get some good images and you have, more importantly, a wonderful experience. I always say photos come third. It's the most enjoyable part, the most meaningful part is the connection you have with the people that you're photographing or the place and the people that you're with. So I rarely travel just by myself. I might be by myself, but always have to have someone who knows the geography, who knows the people. So minimum there's one other person. Usually now my wife comes with me as kind of an assistant and she does a bit of BTS or there's a group if I'm holding a workshop or something. So the connection with your team, and the connection with the people that you are photographing always comes out on top. And if you're able to get great photos, fantastic. If you're able to get great photos, I think just to round off that question, very important to share those photos with the people that you've photographed, either at the same time, or if you go back, or if everyone has a phone these days, even some of the most remote cultures, somehow get the images to them on WhatsApp or email or something like that. So 90% of the time I'm able to do that. That really does make such a big difference for them to see the photos that you've taken of them. It's just kind of a little reward. And obviously that I pay, even if they don't want money, I give them money or I bring them something that they need. For example, we were just in Ladakh, northern India, and we stayed with some nomads in the Himalayas for 3 nights as part of the trip. Their teeth are really bad. They don't have any toothbrushes and don't have any, they don't have much eye protection. We're at 15 and a half, 16,000 feet. So the sun is very strong and it can really damage the eyes. So we just brought toothbrushes. So the little things like that really help garner connection, but also just as in cue and respect to them hosting us. Yeah.
When you go out on such expedition, is that a process or do you have sort of a vision like these are the kind of images that I want to take of the people in that culture? Or is it ad hoc inspired?
Yeah, a bit of both. If I hadn't been to that place, I'll do a recce. So if I budget like a 2-week trip somewhere, I'll spend that first week recceing. So like I said, getting to know the people, but also doing a shot list almost. Oh, these people would be wonderful if I can get them. This location be perfect in terms of what I want to say, or what I want to show, or whatever it might be. It really depends. If I've been there already, then I probably have a list or an idea or Google Map pins or something like that where I know, okay, this location is great, but I still don't know what I'm going to get. Right? I don't know. Okay, this in my mind seems great. Most of the time, my mind plays tricks on me, and I get there, and it's, oh, this isn't as good as I thought it was, or the other way. And often the best ad hoc moments come in between those ideas, right? Okay, let's set
Yeah.
up here and let's see if this works. Okay, didn't work, but as we were going from this place to this place, I noticed that this was amazing, or this person relaxed more so that I can get a better shot. So
Hmm.
it is really depends. I always have inspirations. I always have ideas of photos or setups or type of people, or type of lighting, or type of composition, or a story I want to say. I'm really focused on telling bigger stories now rather than just going out and getting shots of cool stuff. Yeah, it really depends. It's an ongoing process, and it's just iterations all the time.
Are you really edit focused kind of photographer, or do you have a gentle hand in terms of post processing your images? Because when I started, I used to edit the shit out of my photographs.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all did.
Yeah, exactly. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, I think if you look at the photographs in the world, current, past, and present, you will find a common thread that's very light touches on the editing. Now, that's not to say that editing is not important. I think it really is, and can save you sometimes, because if you're taking a shot in the heat of the moment and you've got 5 seconds to get something incredible, you might be able to save some of that image with your edit. But again, I'm sorry to be a bit obtuse, but it really just depends. But I will prioritize getting the shot in camera all the time. I'll spend an extra hour if I need to getting the right shot, or waiting for the right light, or waiting for the right composition, or just giving up, trying again another day so that I can get it as perfect as I can in camera, for two reasons. One, I think I'm not a good enough editor. Some of these people these days who are good at design and good at graphic and good at post processing, no, I'm just not that. I don't have the patience to do it. That's one reason. But two, I just think I'm kind of an old school photographer in that respect. I just feel that the enjoyment for me is getting that banger in camera, and just being able to just make the smallest basic adjustments and crop and removal of dust and little spots. I don't mind that, but I don't want to spend more than an hour on a photo editing. If I do, I lose my interest for it, and the editing just becomes bad quality. It's a difficult one, but I think it's really important. But I think it's very important to be subtle, because
Right.
as you could make so many changes, leave your laptop for half an hour, come back 30 minutes later, and you're like, what have I done? Because you get editing blindness, right? I think that says a lot. I think that really says a lot to how much editing you should or need to be doing. But every photographer is different. I also don't know where that line is between photography and design.
It's getting blurry all the time.
Yeah.
Most of my lenses are either vintage or manual. It's all manual control. So what it does to me, it slows me down. I'm not going around like a mad person, going like a machine gun.
Pray and pray.
Yeah. So it's just take one photograph and come back. So I feel sometimes you have to tape over the live view and not see it.
Yeah. I think that's important. I've always shot medium format. So even more medium format digital, I shoot as much film nowadays as I shoot digital. Any medium format camera, digital or film, will slow you down. And I think that's a really important connection to photography. I wish all photographers had. It just allows you to be more mindful. And especially if you're shooting people, right? You're able to garner a lot more connection with the person in front of the camera as well as behind the camera, right? A bit of connection with you, and mindful of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to capture, what you're trying to say. It's too easy. I think it's too easy today to pick up the latest Sony, the latest Canon, the latest Nikon, and just, like you said, put it on high burst and just get 100 clicks of the same frame and pick out something that worked. I just don't like that approach. I don't agree with it. I don't think that's the real art form of photography. But that's just me. There are so many people that get incredible images that way, just whether it resonates with your own personal The belief and process is a different, but I agree with you. I think having something on your camera, if it's digital, that allows you to slow down more, and whether that's, like you said, just taking up the LCD, the LCD screen, or changing your settings, make sure you shoot in manual. Yeah, you might miss some shots. Yeah, get over it, but it guaranteed you some better shots in the long run.
Shooting with intent is very important because when you press the shutter, you're taking a creative decision to freeze that moment in time. So, what's your take on that, Matt?
Yeah, but it's difficult. It's like anything that we do these days. We always, usually human nature, we take the easier path. So if we have a digital camera that does everything for us, why not use it? I want to get to an elderly state with a proud body of work and know that I crafted that. I did as much as I could. Now, still, I shoot digital, so there's a lot of stuff the camera's doing for me. But as long as, like you said, that intent, it's so important, and that's really where creativity comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And where do you get this idea of doing workshops and get into teaching?
Yeah, that started, when did that start? I think that started in COVID, when I was trying to figure out ways to kind of integrate myself into the photography community. And I started doing Instagrations with other photographers in an attempt to connect with and learn, still very green in the photography space, and learn from other people just through a world where we couldn't go travel, in a world we couldn't really visit. I think from there, I realized that speaking to other photographers was a thing I wanted to do. And that's where the genesis of the podcast really came from. But in the same space, I enjoy talking to people out there, putting something out there. So when we moved to Bali, and as you might imagine, life here is a little bit cheaper than the West. And I was able to afford to rent a studio, so which is where I'm sat now. And so we started doing a podcast, and then people would come in and say, "Oh, I want to do a photo shoot, or can you give me some tips, or can you?" And then people saying, "Why don't you just hold some workshops here?" And we started doing some like really informal, unofficial, just a couple of hours suits, really education element in it. And then I've kind of reset Instagram and wanted to try and grow that in a curated way. And I had to figure out a way to do reels. And so the only way I could think about doing that was doing education videos. And so kind of the education thing came into photography, and it turned out I really enjoyed it. I don't do those videos anymore because the podcast is more enjoyable, but it's kind of taken over. But I still, one of my dreams in photography was to travel with it for free. So a bit like flying, where it's like, I want to get paid to go and take photos in a place that I want to go to. Well, the only way I can think about doing that is, one, get a client to pay for me, but then my creative vision is stifled because I'm really performing for them, and I don't really have a choice in where I stay and where I go, and etc. Unless I'm really lucky, some clients and brands are really good with that, but most of the time you're working for someone else. And the other way of doing it is to do expeditions or photo tours, whatever you want to call them, like on location workshops. So that's the plan. I haven't done any yet, but we're putting some together for next year, which will be a little bit studio based, but mostly out on location and enjoying that connection with other people, which I think really aids in the fulfillment and satisfaction of photography as much as getting those photos, like I talked about earlier.
The podcast originate? Did it originate from the education side of things? And how has been the experience? And how has been the experience?
Yeah, it originated from COVID. It was those Instagram live conversations with other photographers. Like, I enjoy this. It's kind of nice to connect and learn. And I got good feedback as well from the guests. I mean, at the time, I wasn't getting any views. It was just more of an experiment. And so I didn't really have an author to call upon. But the guests I was talking to, and I said, "Yeah, what do you think? Am I good? What can I do better?" And that's when we moved to Bali and the studio. And that was nearly 2 years ago. And so, yeah, we've been improving ever since, and just love it. I just enjoy having that one-on-one conversation with nothing else mattering for an hour and a half, and just focusing on talking to another human. And my tagline is art of conversation, one frame at a time. And I feel like in today's world, this is why podcasts are so great. And I'm glad to see podcasts really quite popular in whatever industry, is because we get to talk to people. We're not sat behind a phone. We're not commenting on someone's post. We're not emailing. We're not part of that screen time of the population. It is, yeah, we're on screen right now, but we converse. And I always saw that was something we're losing as a society. And without being too dramatic. It's nice to, for me anyway, to be part of keeping the conversation going.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's because you can make that connection. And I always say you're literally in somebody's ears.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
A portrait photographer showcasing indigenous culture, traveling around the world, having a podcast, having a photography education as part of your career. And now, where do you see it going from here?
It sounds exciting, isn't it? All of that you just mentioned, and like a high level, like I probably should, but my photography specifically, I'm shooting a lot more film storytelling in series a lot better. I like to shoot in series, I like to shoot in projects, but more importantly, I want to distill a lot of that down to 2 or 3 big stories across, years, not just a couple of visits in different locations every year. So that's where I think the workshops will really focus on that a lot more because I'll be going to the same location. So I'll be able to really garner better relationships with the people where I'm going to be shooting. So I think that really is going to help me tell deeper and more meaningful stories over time. So that's really what I want to do with photography. I'm still learning. I should say I'm still failing at film. So I've been shooting film for the last couple of years and just almost as a backup to my digital, not a backup, but a supplement to my digital. And I want to swap that. I want to kind of prioritize film and use digital backup. So I'm still learning that. I'm trying to develop my own film and kind of enjoy that experience. All just like little passions, photography world that don't make money, but I just love it. Right. So yeah, there's that. So I think the work I'm really excited about the workshops and photo doors. I think that will sit nicely in my artistic endeavors. And yeah, the podcast is something that's the biggest challenge I've probably had in my adult career. It's so difficult. I did a post on Instagram last night. I don't know when this episode is going out, but we just did a BTS video, kind of like sneak peek behind the podcast. Posted it yesterday. I was really proud of it, and it was something. It reminded me of how much work goes into the podcast. There's some preaching to the choir, but especially with video, especially with studio episodes, we've got 3 cameras, we've got a trailer to do, we've got my standards with the visuals and the audio are so high, everything has to be perfect. And we've got a guest outreach, got to do research for the guests, got to prepare, got to make sure I can host okay. We have to host them in this environment. And then it's post-production, it's distribution, dissemination, SEO optimization. It is just for one episode, it's a lot of
Exactly.
work. And just like learning photography, it's a lot of work and a lot of failures and a lot of experimentation. I'm really enjoying that process, and hopefully I can continue to remember that to enjoy the process and not be so focused on the outcome, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating 6, 12, 24 months, and I'll watch the space.
Awesome, Matt. And with that, let's bookend this conversation and all the best on your future endeavors. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for coming on the show. I know it has been a while since my last episode. Many thanks for being patient with me. On other news, we have a new sponsor for this podcast, Apopos Studios from Monureva, Auckland. It is a creative co-working space for photographers, entrepreneurs, and businesses in South Auckland. So if you're a photographer who needs a space to shoot headshots, portraits, or even products, Apopos Studios is the space that you need. So head on over to apopostudios.nz for more information. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave us a like or follow us on our Substack, photocountry.co. Till the next episode, stay safe and keep clicking. This is Rajiv signing off.